Hello from Southern Ontario. It's August 6th. So, our mainstream media, oddly enough, doesn't seem to be covering it much. But you see the civil unrest in the UK? It's been just over a week now, and the UK is racked with the kind of civil unrest we used to think of only as happening in third world countries. Now, I'm going to use the terms new arrivals and old stock. And it should be noted that this same kind of civil unrest has broken out in Ireland as well. They've gone from peaceful and unrestive civil unrest to, well, civil unrest. It's being speculated that the UK is on the brink of civil war. Now, the thing is, the old stock in both countries have been pushed by their government's mass migration policies. This has caused social disruption to a point that the citizens just find intolerable. Now, in the UK, it seems two-tier government policy supported by two-tier mainstream media's portrayal of this, I'll call it anarchy, is at play. Here's an example. The newly elected UK PM made a public announcement where he said, "The far right's violence will not be tolerated." Now here's where the term two-tiered comes in. There's plenty of video footage shows the new arrivals, which the Prime Minister refers to as counter-protesters, counter-protesting the far right. Now, what the Prime Minister and the mainstream media refers to as counter-protesters are perpetrating acts of violence that, well, one might say don't differ from the old stock civil unrest, although the majority of the newcomers all seem to be masked quite thoroughly in the video footage I've seen of what's going on in the UK and again in Ireland. So the UK Prime Minister is dumping incarcerated prisoners from the penal system to make space for recent and promised arrests of, again, the far-right protesters, because they have to stop. No reference to the counter-protesters. Now, even totally peaceful protesters have been warned of arrests, and there have been arrests, that they will be immediately arrested, sentenced, and incarcerated for even peaceful protesting. That's right, even waving the national flag or voicing an opinion that is counter to the government online. They're arresting people for that. It's already begun. So waving the flag or speaking out against government policy lands the old stock under arrest. But no worries, the masked newcomers are counter-protesters and seem to be policed differently. Now, if we look at Canada, we're about 5 years behind the UK, Ireland, and most of the EU member nations in the migration policies. And I've said it before, and I'll stress it again here, our migration numbers per capita are identical to that of Ireland. So is it going to take 5 years for this to get here to Canada? Well, it might be less because the Trudeau Liberal, well, I should say the Trudeau Party that heads Canada is accelerating the migration numbers, despite the fact we see it's not working in any of the other Western nations.